各位观众朋友们，大家好！香港示威已经5个多月了，抗议者与警方冲突不断。自从本周末起，香港警方与示威者在香港理工大学对峙升级，示威者的汽油弹与警方的催泪瓦斯还有水炮车射出的蓝色水柱交错拉锯。在警方的重重包围下，数百名示威者目前仍然被困在校内。亚洲协会美中关系中心的主任夏伟 Orville Shell 接受了华尔街电视的专访，谈及了他对香港当前局势的看法。夏伟认为，6个月以来，香港局势实现波动升级，而此番升级呢，尤为引人注目。在中国传统文化中，校园与学生具有独特意义，一直呢也受到特殊的待遇，甚至具有某种神圣性。但是这个周末，警方明目张胆侵入大学圣地，可谓是打破了中国文化的心理防线。而抗议战场转入大学校园，不免引发外界对香港局势是不是会演变成天安门事件2.0的猜测。对此，夏伟对华尔街电视表示，尽管他不愿预测人民解放军或武警部队会出手干预，但是他看不到香港问题还能以什么其他方式结束。他表示，在4个月以前，人们或许还对香港抗议将销声匿迹存抱幻想，但时至今日，这种可能性已经微乎其微。他回忆自己首次去香港是在1961年，当时香港被认为是最没有政治骨气的地方，一切向前看，是香港给人给世界的印象。然而在中国共产党政权，特别是习近平政权任下，香港被推向了截然相反的一端。从雨伞运动开始，北京政权对香港自治的侵害更加明显，这成就了一代香港年轻人的反抗情绪。夏伟甚至判断，以前香港年轻人的游击战术堪比毛泽东时代的革命力量，他们已经知道如何移动作战，如何战斗到底。香港的今天是习近平的最大成就，他成功地把香港从一个金钱至上、对政治十分冷漠的世俗城市，变成了世界民主运动政治觉醒的典范。夏伟对华尔街电视说，为此习近平应该获得诺贝尔和平奖。虽然官方将香港问题归咎于房价过高、薪资增长不景气等经济民生问题，但是抗议产生的源泉却不在于此。而夏伟对华尔街电视说，这一个判断恰恰说明了中央政府的愚钝，他们不理解抗议者的真正诉求和心理。抗议者群体年轻程度惊人，这呢让夏伟联想起了5·4运动。他认为，与历史上的学生运动类似，这次的香港抗议也是一次逐步深入、充满巧合与意外的过程。一切开始于香港人的政治诉求未能够得到香港政府的回应，但是随着运动的次第展开，抗议越来越具有冲击力。直至今天，整个一代香港年轻人都被训练成为了精明骁勇的游击队队员。夏伟认为，尽管香港并非注定走向悲剧，但是留给中央政府的时间已经非常紧迫了。解决香港问题其实很简单，夏伟说，如果习近平今天晚上上电视对全世界宣告，我对香港问题进行了深思熟虑，我认为我们必须坚守在1984年和1997年对香港人做出的承诺，保持香港高度自治，我们必须把当时的承诺变成现实，我们要与香港人合作，过去的已经过去了，我们只放眼未来。夏伟说，只要习近平这样说这样做，那么香港问题迎刃而解，这是解决香港问题的唯一出路。但是夏伟坦言，说实话，我并不认为习近平会这样做。尽管林郑月娥及其领导下的香港特区政府在北京和抗议者之间可以作为某种缓冲地带，但是夏伟认为林郑及其政府在当前局势中毫无作用。特区政府的问题在于，如果回应抗议者的诉求，则必将激怒中央政权，而这呢是香港政府所不可能做的事情，这就是两难所在。在谈及美国的角色时，夏伟对华尔街电视表示，美国所有的工具极其有限，通过香港人权民主法案，进而将香港的特殊地位作为砝码，可能是国会所拥有的唯一力量。但是法案的通过对于香港局势影响更为微妙，一旦取消了香港的特殊地位，香港将完全被置于北京掌控中。从这个意义上来讲，只有一个尚未通过的法案才是有力量的法案。而夏伟预测，白宫对香港人权与民主法案签署与否，也许会成为川普政府在与中国贸易谈判中的筹码。但是，川普的善变与不稳定，让美国和中国都感到恐慌不安。就像弗里德曼那句著名的俏皮话：“川普配不上美国，但中国遇上川普，那真是活该。”以下呢，要为您带来的就是这次访谈的部分内容。
Over this past weekend, the situation in Hong Kong has dramatically escalated. So we saw, the protesters holding the police off from entering their campus, with homemade firebombs, slingshots, bricks and bolts and arrows, only to be met by the police, using hails of tear gas and rubber bullets. So where is this all going? Do we see an end in sight, or is it just quickly spinning out of control?
Well, I think, over the 6 months, we've seen, repeated sort of expansions and escalations of both the scope of the protest and the severity of the protest. And we've just now seen another significant one, because there always has been in sort of the Chinese historical, view of things, kind of a sacred quality to campuses and to students, that somehow they're different than and should deserve some special dispensation or some special consideration. And that here we see them really the last, you could almost look at it as a liberated zone of the students. The universities has now been invaded. So
Great.
That it's a little bit like, Chiang Kai-shek's effort to encircle the communist liberated areas, Soviet areas in the 1920s.
I see. As you pointed out, now we see, police storm the campus before dawn and threaten to use live rounds to deter student protesters. So now we start to see an increasing resemblance between Tiananmen and Hong Kong. So how would you assess the probability of this escalating to Tiananmen 2.0 in the future?
Well, we really don't know. But, I wrote a piece, it was about a month ago, for Foreign Affairs about this very topic, comparing Hong Kong with Tiananmen. And my sort of analysis then is the same as now, is that I don't predict that the Chinese PLA or the People's Armed Police will come in, but I frankly don't see any other scenario for how this is going to end. And that's the only other scenario is if it quietly fizzles out. And maybe 3-4 months ago that was possible, but I don't think it's possible now. Sadly, I think what's happened is that this, Hong Kong, I've been going there since 1961, and for most of that time, it was considered a city that didn't have a political bone in its body. It was considered a city that cared only about making money. It was legendary for that. And yet, under the Chinese Communist Party and under Xi Jinping, it has been transformed into its opposite.
That's an interesting observation. So just to be clear, do you think it was the party that transformed fundamentally the Hong Kong people, or do you think, sort of political awareness was something that was innate in the Hong Kong people's heart and mind, but it was the party that incite that consciousness and sort of put it out in the open?
Well, I think the party has incited them. And it began with the Umbrella Revolution, this idea that the party had the right to slowly sort of eat away at Hong Kong's independence and the one country, two systems. It was had a real tin ear, just didn't understand that there is something fundamental in people that doesn't like to be bullied. And so it transformed this younger generation. And now it's had almost a decade of being in opposition, and now it's become exactly what Mao Zedong's, Yoji Dui, the guerrilla forces, became in China. It's learned to be in opposition. It's learned how to be mobile, and it's learned how to actually to fight. And this is Xi Jinping's great accomplishment. I've long said I thought he ought to get a Nobel Prize for transforming Hong Kong from a money-grubbing commercial city that didn't care a thing about politics into being the global poster child for political consciousness and mass protest.
I see. So, one thing that always strikes me as interesting is when you hear, the official outlets in Beijing talk about Hong Kong crisis, they usually attribute the ongoing crisis to, economic factors, right? So the housing price is too high, people's salaries do not grow as fast as, their living cost, etc., etc. Do you think it's actually a misguided belief, or do you think they actually know what's going on, but they are deliberately avoiding citing, political concerns?
Well, I think there are obviously some economic problems, lifestyle problems, housing, careers, future for young people. Yes, there are all these issues, but that's not why they're in the street. I think it's very naive of the party to view this in a narrow sort of structural way as just some economic grievances. That's not what's going on here. I mean, this is where the party is really very obtuse and very sort of ignorant, and that it can't understand the sort of the psychology of what is happening and the psychology of what happens when you push people around.
Speaking of, the psychology behind the protests, one thing that's extremely interesting is how young the protesters are as a whole. From one report, I think a third of the protesters are under the age of 20. So why are they so motivated to be out on the street and, protesting for political freedom? Aren't they too precocious for that?
Well, I think what we see here is something very similar to what we saw in China a century ago, with the as the Chinese Communist movement and the May 4th movement arose. It rises in steps, one step at a time. And first students are provoked into the streets, then something else happens. So I think this is not something that happened like a clap of thunder all of a sudden. It was a step-by-step process that had a lot to do with not being listened to and having legitimate grievances, which the government, in this case the Hong Kong government, was incapable of responding to because it didn't have the power, it didn't have the independent ability to respond. So I think this is the way political movements arise. They rise slowly, bit by bit, and they gather momentum. And we are now have the most amazing situation in Hong Kong where a whole generation has been trained in guerrilla warfare.
I see. So we all wish for the best for Hong Kong. But if you were to give the central government a piece of policy recommendation, what would that be? Or is it too late to make any change? Or do you still see a way out?
Well, I think it isn't too late, but it's getting very late. And I think the solution is very simple, but I don't think that Xi Jinping is capable of it because he is so worried about losing face and seeming weak. The way he could end it would be to say, go on television tonight and say simply, I've been thinking about the situation in Hong Kong. I see no good ending if we continue as it's going now. And I would like to make a proposal to say that we committed ourselves back in 1984 and then in 1997 to one country, two systems. We have to make that work. We have to be true to our commitment, and we have to find a way to allow Hong Kong to have sufficient, independence to make that promise a reality. And we are going to work with them to do that, and the past is the past, and we want to start over again. Now, I don't think there's any chance he'll do that, but that would be the only way to solve it, to rededicate themselves to making Deng Xiaoping's formula work.
I see. Another person who has some skin in this game is Carrie Lam. Do you think she can potentially help things out, or she's completely powerless?
I don't think she can. I don't think there's any way for her to do that. She, even if she was independent, in order to solve the Hong Kong problem, she would have to go into opposition against the Beijing leaders in the Chinese Communist Party, and so I think she doesn't have adequate power to resolve it. And that's the dilemma. The government is basically a non-functional entity. So there's nobody there who's capable of resolving this. And China will not allow outside forces to come in. Mediation from multi-government mediation team or something. They won't allow that because of sovereignty issues. So there's nobody there capable of solving it except Xi Jinping.
I see. But, this past weekend has been especially bad for Xi Jinping, right? So we had this, escalation of situation in Hong Kong. And also, New York Times had this huge leak of document in Xinjiang. And actually, just minutes before we spoke on the phone, China Commission of the Congress published a statement condemning human rights violations in Xinjiang, citing the New York Times report. Which led to my question, how much of a role does the U.S. Congress have in this? Can the Congress be a potential power broker?
Well, I think the United States has relatively few moves to make. There's relatively little it can do, and particularly under the Trump administration, which is, has its own problems. It can remove Hong Kong's special trade status. The trouble is, as soon as it does that, it loses all of its power. So here's the problem, that it does have the ability to remove Hong Kong's special trade status. But once it makes that move, that's really the last thing that it can do. And it also, if it removes Hong Kong's special trade status, it really pushes China more Hong Kong more irrevocably into China's control. So it's a Faustian wager. Its pressure is only effective as long as it doesn't use it.
I see. So another player in all this is President Trump. So let's suppose this bill passes the Senate. Do you think Trump will sign it? Especially against the backdrop of this whole trade deal and trade talk thing with China?
Well, it actually gives Trump something to hold over China, too. So in a certain sense, it could work to his advantage in the trade deal because he could threaten to sign it or to veto it if it were passed. It's very hard to know. I think Trump is so completely unpredictable. It will, I think, depend on whether he, what goes on with the impeachment hearing and whether he gets, suddenly angry at China for some reason in the trade negotiation. It's very ironic because China always had a very reliable, predictable, steady counterpart in America, and it could always rely on every president being very concerned about blowing up the relationship. But now it has a president that wants to blow up everything, or seems willing on alternative days to blow up everything. So it really has China guessing. It really has China off course and off balance. It doesn't know what to do because it's dealing basically with a madman. So in a funny way, the old joke is that America didn't get the president we deserve, but China did.
以上呢就是华尔街电视专访亚洲协会美中关系主任夏伟 WallStTV 的全部内容。正值今天，香港高院11月18日颁下判词，裁定紧急法赋权特首会同行政会议在任何危害公安情况订立规例方面不符合基本法的规定。 而禁蒙面法部分规定对基本权利所施加的限制超乎为达至目的之合理所需，不符合相称性验证标准，因此禁蒙面法违宪。而在北京时间11月19日，中国国务院港澳办发言人杨光就上述动态发表谈话，对该判决产生的严重负面影响表示强烈关注。杨光表示，香港现行的紧急情况条例规例是经过1997年2月全国人大常委会有关决定确认符合基本法，并采纳为香港特别行政区法律，这表明条例的全部规定都符合基本法。香港特别行政区行政长官会同行政会议依据该条例制定禁止蒙面规例，即为依照基本法和全国人大常委会有关决定履行职权。该规例实施以来对止暴制乱发挥了积极作用。而高等法院原诉庭判决紧急情况限例条例赋予行政长官在某些情况下制定有关规例的规定不符合基本法，并裁决禁止蒙面规例主要内容不符合相称性标准，是公然挑战全国人大常委会的权威和法律赋予的行政长官的管制权力，将产生严重的负面社会影响。因此，杨光表示，我们将密切关注此案的后续发展，希望香港特别行政区政府和司法机关严格依照基本法履行责任，共同承担止暴制乱、恢复秩序的责任。而11月19日，中国全国人大常委会法制工作委员会发言人张铁伟就香港特别行政区高等法院原诉庭有关司法复核案判决发表谈话称，香港特别行政区法律是否符合香港基本法，只能够由全国人大常委会作出判定和决定，其他任何机关都无权作出判断和决定。张铁伟还表示，11月18日，香港特别行政区高等法院原诉庭作出一项判决，其中裁定香港紧急情况条例规例部分条款不符合香港基本法，致使有关条款无效，而一些全国人大代表对此表示强烈不满。全国人大常委会法工委对此表示严重关切。他还特别指出，宪法和基本法共同构成特别行政区的宪法基础，香港特别行政区法律是不是符合香港基本法，只能由全国人大常委会作出判断和决定，任何其他机关都无权作出判断和决定。而根据香港基本法第8条的规定，包括紧急情况规例条例在内的香港原有法律，除同香港基本法相抵触或经香港特别行政区立法机关作出修改者外，予以保留。张铁伟表示，条例是符合香港基本法的。香港特别行政区高等法院原诉庭有关判决的内容，严重削弱了香港特区行政长官和政府应该有的管制权，不符合香港基本法和全国人大常委会有关决定的规定。现在他们正在研究一些全国人大代表提出的意见和建议。